And I shared the script. I hope you got that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं मवामहे कविं कवीनाम् उमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पदान शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती दीनामवित्र्यवतु महासरस्वत्यै नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे सर्वलोकानां भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मिन् गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। देवीं वाचमजनयन्त देवाः तां विश्वरूपा पशवो वदन्ति सा नो मन्दिरेषु मूर्जन्දුहाना धेनुर्वागस्मानुप्रतिष्ठितैतु व्यासम्प्रतिष्ठितवक्तारं शक्ते पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकदातं तपोनिधिं व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। शिवशक्तिसमारम्भां भास्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मत्श्रीनाथपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्री Okay, so I will quickly go to those two mantras and give the meaning for that, and then we will go down into the depth of a few topics. So, mantra number 4, Mundaka Upanishad, second Mundaka, first chapter. Agnir Murdha Chakshushi Chandrasuryau Dishah Shrotre Vag Vivrutascha Vedaha Vayuhu Prano Hridayam Vishwamasya Padbhyam Prithvi Hyesha Sarva Bhutantaratma Sarva Bhuta Antaratma Agnirmurdha Chakshishi Chandrasuryau Dishashrotre Vag Vivrutascha Vedaha Vayuh Prano Hridayam Vishwamasya Padbhyam Prithvi Hyesha Sarva Bhutantaratma. Here Agni means fire, Asya means his, Murdha means head, Chandra Suryau means the moon and the sun, Chakshushi means the two eyes, Dishaha means directions, quarters of the sky, Shrotre means 2 years, Vivrutaha emanated, Vedaha means the Vedas, Cha means and, Vak means speech, Vayuhu is air, Pranaha breath, Hrudayam heart, Vishwam the universe, Asya means is his, Padbhyam from feet, Padbhyam means from feet, Prithvi the earth, Jata is originated, Epaha this, Sarvepam of all, Bhutanam beings, Antaratma means the inner self. So take a moment. There are so many terminologies that we are hearing. And in the class prior to last week, I talked about many things. And here you also need to slowly keep a tab on the word inner self. These things you need to be clear about the technical understanding. and not remain with a layman's interpretation of these terms. The summary of this mantra is: fire is his head, the moon and the sun are his two eyes, the four directions are the ears, the emanated Vedas are his speech, his breath is air, the universe is his heart, and from his feet the earth originated. Verily, he is the inner self of all beings. Do you want me to repeat this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, fire is his head, the moon and sun are his two eyes, the four directions are the ears, the emanated Vedas are his speech, his breath is air, the universe is his heart, and from his feet the earth originated. Verily, he is the inner self of all beings. Whenever we say he, his, who are we talking about?
Shiva.
The Purusha,
Yeah.
the
Purusha.
Brahman, right? Now, here, the Agni or fire, it actually means Dyuloka, Dyu, D-Y-U, Dyulokaha, which is referencing the heaven. Now, let us focus on the next mantra. Tasma Dagnihi Samidho Yasya Suryah Somat Parjanya Oshadhayah Prithibhyam. Somat Parjanya Oshadhayah Prithibhyam Puman Retah Sinchati Yoshitayam Bahvihi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. तस्मादग्निः समिधो यस्य सूर्यः सोमात् पर्जन्य ओषधयः पृथिव्यां पुमान् रेतः सिञ्चति योषितायां बह्वीः प्रजाः पुरुषात् सम्प्रसूताः. Tasmat means from him again. Agni, as we said, is referencing literally fire, but it means the heaven. Jatah means is originated. Surya is the sun. Yasya means whose. Samidaha is fuel. Somat means from the moon. Parjanyaha means cloud. Sambhavanti is arises. Prithibhyam on earth. Oshadhayaha. Any idea what it is?
Aushadha means that is Aushad. Aushad and Aushad is
Herbs.
medicine, herbs, right?
Yeah. Udbhavanti means grow. Puman is man. Is Ram also there today? Or is
He's out. He's not home yet.
okay. So Puman means man. Yoshitayam into woman. Into woman. Retah semen. Sinchati means casts. Cast means by this process. Purushat from the Purusha. Bahvihi, many. Prajaha means living beings. Samprasutaha are born. So the summary of this is, from him comes the Agni or the heaven, whose fuel is the sun. From the moon arises clouds, herbs grow on the earth, man casts semen into a woman, and by this process, many living beings are born of the Purusha. I will repeat it. From him comes the Agni or heaven, whose fuel is the sun. From the moon arises clouds, herbs grow on the earth, man casts semen into woman, and by this process, many living beings are born of the Purusha. Now, basically, what is being described in this mantra is a gradual process of the origin of all beings from the one Purusha. The argument is very, very simple. From the Purusha has originated the Dyuloka or heaven, and from the moon in the Dyuloka, the clouds, the rains dropping from the clouds on earth produce plants and herbs. Men live on these plants and herbs and secrete semen. The semen, again having fallen into the womb of a woman, produces living beings. Thus, Purusha is the final cause of the origin of beings. Now, when the moon is referred as Dyuloka and the sun is referred as a fuel, why do you think it is referred as a fuel?
Because of the energy, the solar energy.
No,
It
actually,
gives life. Without sun, there is no life.
Yes, life is one, but the light that you see in the moon is directly the reflection of the sun.
It is the main source for everything.
Yeah. Okay. So it is not that difficult to understand these two mantras by itself. Right? Any questions so far?
That's what I was thinking. This looks a little simpler compared to the first chapter. Even the reading.
No, what it means is you're getting now used to it. You're getting used to the whole concept. Bango.
Sorry.
Hey, no problem.
So,
it is good. And there's already a lot of difference in the India UK batch. They are able to now answer some of the questions very clearly and crisply. So you will also see the same effect. So I'll quickly summarize the two mantras that we said. The mantra number 4 said is talking about fire is his head, the moon and the sun are his two eyes, the four directions are his ears. Ram, உங்களுக்கு அதான் repeat பண்றேன் now. Okay. Yeah. இருக்கா? Fourth. Fire is his head, the moon and the sun are his two eyes, the four directions are the ears, the emanated Vedas are his speech, his breath is air, the universe is his heart, and from his feet the earth originated. Verily, he is the inner self of all beings. That is the meaning of mantra number 4. Okay, va? Mantra number 5 is again, from him comes the Agni or the heaven, whose fuel is the sun, and from the moon arises clouds, herbs grow on the earth, man casts semen into woman. By this process, many living beings are born of the Purusha. Again, the aim is to say the origin of everything is the Purusha. That is where you entered.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to stuff that we have learned in the previous classes. Right? Do you remember the terms Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat?
Yes.
Okay. So, what differentiates Ishvara from Hiranyagarbha and Hiranyagarbha from Virat? What is that one keyword that differentiates Ishvara and Hiranyagarbha? இந்த மணிவண்ணன்
சொல்லுங்க சார்.
ஞாபகம் இருக்கா? Padmaji?
I didn't understand actually the word.
What is that one keyword? We said Nirguna Brahman, Saguna Brahman. What makes a Nirguna Brahman, Saguna Brahman? When the Nirguna Brahman has the desire to multiply,
The chitta,
Maya,
Maya. Okay.
the illusory power Maya, when it gets attached,
Yes. Yes.
the creation process starts. Eko aham bhuyasam is the term that I explained last time. It desired to become many. The Maya or the illusory power is composed of three qualities. What are those three qualities?
My notes are missing.
Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Did you get that?
Yes. I thought something different. I
Aha.
had those.
No, Maya is the illusory power, and that is composed of the three qualities of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So, the Nirguna Brahman, when has the power of Maya, becomes Ishvara or Saguna Brahman. Now, one word of advice. Whatever we are talking about, we are talking in the cosmic language, applies to the individual as well. And slowly later on, you will realize when you go to the temples, it applies to the temple construction and the features of the temple as well. The concept is the same. Whatever we are describing for macrocosm is applicable for microcosm, and the same principle is used in the construction of temples as well. Which means when we're talking of the head, the heart, the feet, the nabhi, we are talking of the cosmos. And for human beings, it's easy for us to understand those terms. Right? So, what did we learn in the mantra that we learned today about the feet in the cosmic language?
Feet is the earth.
Correct. So now you're able to connect the dots. Correct?
Yes.
மணிவண்ணன் உங்களுக்கு ஈஸியா இருக்கா இல்ல you want me to slow down and repeat something?
No, I'm able to follow.
சரி. ஸோ ஹெசிடேட் பண்ணாதவங்க. சப்போஸ் ஏதாவது புரியல காம்ப்ளிகேட்டட் ஆகிட்டு இருக்குன்னா யூ கேன் ஸ்டாப் மீ ரைட் தேர் அண்ட் ஐ கேன் ரிப்பீட் இட். நாட் அ ப்ராப்ளம். பத்மாஜி, ஆர் யூ ஓகே?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ishvara is the language in the cosmic terms, and Jiva is the language in the microcosm in our terms. So, while you want to know that there are different ways that Ishvara and Jiva are described in the three different schools of philosophy, Advaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita, the principle is the same. Both recognize the concept of macrocosm and microcosm, Paramatma and Jivatma. In terms of how it unfolds and how the expansion and dissolution happens, there is a slight difference. That's all. So you can keep that minor differences aside because it will take years to understand and reconcile those explanations given by the three acharyas. All of you are aware, right? Who are the three acharyas of those schools of philosophies?
Adi Sankara,
Madhvacharya, Ramanuja.
And what did they do respectively?
Advaitam, Visishtadvaitam,
Advaitam, Dvaitam, and Visishtadvaitam.
Advaitam and Visishtadvaitam.
Correct. Madhvacharya is Dvaitam. So the Ishvara endowed with the power of Maya, illusory power of Maya, is the cause for creation. And we already established in the last class, Nirguna Brahman is the source. Nirguna Brahman is not the effect of anything. That is the starting point.
Ishvara.
Right. No, Ishvara is the Saguna Brahman. Because Ishvara has got the power of Maya.
So there is one level.
Correct. So Nirguna Brahman to Saguna Brahman. Ishvara is Saguna Brahman.
Yes.
So when the creation starts, first the Tanmatras, the subtle plane, is created. Tanmatras, you know what are the Pancha Tanmatras?
Sparsha, Shabda, Rasa, Rupa, and Gandha.
Perfect. So in a layman's language, consider these as an operating system or software. Now, if you have a software but there's no hardware, does it make any sense? So these software or the Panchatan Matras are the essence of the Panchabhutas. Panchabhutas are the hardware.
I see.
So before the Panchabhutas are born, they have to be in a subtle state, which is the software, which is the Tanmatra, Pancha Tanmatra. So the Ishvara, which is the Saguna Brahman with the power of Maya, that creates these subtle entities called the Panchatan Matras, along with the Antahkaranas means inner, Anta means inner, Karanas of mind, intellect, ego, and Chitta. Huh? So we have gone pretty much in detail about the process of Panchabhutas and Panchatanmatras, where you start recording and creating impressions every nanosecond. You are in the awakened state, Jagrut state. When your eyes and ears are open, recording is on automatically. It doesn't stop, it doesn't wait for your permission. Chitta is the memory bank, ego is the I, Ahankara. Intellect is like the CD reader that reads all these impressions. And based on the reading, you jump to conclusions or experiences. The term is experience. Correct?
Yes. Experience, yeah.
So, all of this subtle entities, the Panchatan Matras, plus the mind, intellect, ego, and Chitta, is what is called as Hiranyagarbha. It is also called as Mahat Tattva. This is the first creation from the Ishvara. So the subtle things doesn't have any role or cannot be enjoyed unless they become gross or they are associated with the hardware. So subtle elements become gross as the Panchabhutas that we perceive. Keyword again, perceive. Right? So the Ishvara or that part of the Ishvara that creates or identifies himself with the entire gross world is called Virat, means big. So just for those who are technically very interested, Hiranyagarbha Upasana is also called as Sambhuti Upasana in some schools. Now these are all at the cosmic level, not at the individual level. So Ishvara is the causal state. Hiranyagarbha is the subtle state. Virat is the gross state. These are the three states of Ishvara. Now, these forms that are at the cosmic level also extend at the individual level. When it is at the individual level, these states are referred as Vyasti, which is individual. At the cosmic level, it is called Samashti. These are the terms that you will find in any kind of Shakta school of philosophy as Pinda Andam and Brahma Andam. Brahmandam nu சொல்லுது Brahmandam. Andam means body. Pinda means small or individual. Brahma means total or cosmic. Was it good enough?
Yeah.
So, Ishvara is the unmanifested form of Brahman. The unmanifested or Avyaktam is manifested in the form of Hiranyagarbha or the subtle body. The world is created by Ishvara and the creation happens in Hiranyagarbha. This creation is manifested externally through the gross body or Virat. That is why we keep talking of at the individual level. Whenever we do Nyasam, we are supposed to be talking of all the three bodies. Right? So the three states of Ishvara, if you map it to the three states of Jiva, they are called as Prajna, that is a causal form, Tejasa, the subtle form, and Vishwa, the gross form. So the Jiva that is identified with the subtle form or the subtle body is called Tejasa. And the subtle desires are made gross by the gross body. And the Jiva that identifies himself with the gross body in waking state is called Vishwa. Vishwa means one who perceives the world. Please keyword mark the keywords experience, perceive. Now, the Jiva, when we are talking of the individual form, experiences the world because of avidya. Avidya means lack of knowledge or ignorance. Maya is nothing but the totality of avidya. Right? To summarize again, when we are in the Jagrat state, waking state, Jiva experiences the world through the body, mind, and the senses. The mind or the subtle body is the effect of the ignorance or avidya. So during the waking state, desire comes into mind because of avidya, and this desire is put into action through the body, the gross body. So the body acts as the instrument for the interaction with the world, which is why we keep asking questions. I need clinical evidence. Show me something, right? I want to see it. I want to hear it. I want to taste it. I want to feel it. Our entire understanding of the world and the experience is limited by these panchabhutas and the panchatanmatras. So the identification of the inner self with the gross body is called Vishwas. Identification of the self with the subtle body is called Tejasa. Tejas இருக்குன்னு சொல்றோம் இல்லையா? That is nothing but illumination, the illuminating aspect or light. The experience that one has during the waking state is projected during the sleep as a dream. So while you're awake, you capture a whole lot of stuff, some that you pay attention and consciously you're now listening to what I'm saying, but there are also subconsciously, there are many other things that you're recording. The light in the room that you're sitting, the temperature of the room that you're sitting, the other external factors that are disturbances that are there, your own personality as I, your own ego. So though I am giving the same output here, depending on where you are and how you are, each one will receive it slightly differently. So your experiences are going to be different, right? So whatever you are absorbing, when you go from Jagras to Swapna state, the dream state, all of these things are projected again. That is why you remember certain things from the dream when you wake up. But in the dream state, there is no gross body. There is only subtle body and the causal body that is in play. Because you have paused your eyes, ears, you don't hear anything, you close your eyes, you don't eat anything, you don't smell anything, you don't touch anything and feel, right? It's virtually going to standby mode in computer language. So the identification of the self with the causal body is called prajna. Now the causal body is non-dual, and this state of non-duality is experienced during the deep sleep. That is why you don't remember what happens in the deep sleep state. And during the deep sleep state, you experience only bliss. Up to the Swapna state, you can say, I woke up because of a bad dream. I woke up because of a good dream, or good, bad. Those experiences are there. But as soon as you go to the deep sleep state, there's nothing but bliss. But even though there is bliss in that state, there is still ignorance, avidya. So to summarize everything, deep sleep, Ishvara Prajna, dream state, Hiranyagarbha Tejasa, waking state is Virat and Vishwa. Now extending this logic, if you say Om, A-U-M, the letter A of Omkara is associated with the waking state, means Virat as well as Vishwa. The dream state is associated with the letter U of Omkara. The deep sleep state is associated with the letter M, the Bindu of Omkara. So if you see the Om letter, it is representing each of those states, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. And the extension that you see is called the Ardhamatra, that is representing the Turiya state.
Can you repeat this again, please? The deep sleep is Prajna, it is Ishvara.
Deep sleep is Ishvara or Prajna.
Mhm.
Dream state is Hiranyagarbha or Tejasa. Waking state is Virat, Vishwa.
Virat and Vishwa. Same.
So causal, subtle, gross. Right?
Okay.
So that which is beyond these three states is called the Turiya state. Is also called the Ardhamatra of the Omkara. Now I will put in front of you one more sentence, which you just hold it, understand it, park it. As we go deeper and deeper into various aspects, mantras of Mundaka Upanishad, you will slowly get the clarity on this one. Now, when you try to do sadhana, when you say, what do I do in terms of sadhana and how do I achieve moksha? The process or our effort is in our sadhana is to merge the A of Om into U and merge the U into M and the M to Ardhamatra.
The Ardhamatra is the Chandra Bindu, right?
Extension.
Okay. Okay. This
Binduna M is the bindu.
Turiya.
This is
Turiya state.
I'll repeat it again. Don't worry about it. In the YouTube also, you can play and take notes. So, the same thing at the cosmic level is explained using the principle of Panchikarana. Panchikarana is part of the Tattva Bodha written by Sri Adi Shankaracharya. So now, if anybody has got any doubt whether he was Ishvara Parameshwara in Avatar on planet Earth, you can see how many things he has given us within the span of 32 years. Clear? So this the seemingly appearing jiva or the seeker or I who thinks himself or herself as the prajna, tejasa and vishwa, finding himself or herself different from the respective ishwaras, is liberated by realizing the two keywords, liberated by realizing his own very nature of Brahman, thereby realizing the reality that there is nothing here but Brahman alone. Go back to the terms that I've said. When you evolve through A to U to U to M, and you master that through balancing your sattva, rajas, and tamo gunas, develop the ability to maintain equilibrium, which is samadhi. All of this maya will shatter, the illusion will go away. You will feel like you're passing through the forest, and suddenly you're seeing lights equal to 1,000 sun. If you remember, I've talked about this in the previous classes. So this is how you remember. Like you start connecting the dots, even though you may be repeating certain things. As you learn, start connecting it over and over again. Don't learn everything in isolation. When you start mapping things, when you start connecting and repeating things, it helps you in memorizing and understanding this better. So far, so good.
yes.
So let us quickly go to Panchikarana. Ready? So this you will find in the Tattva Bodha of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. So I will repeat it when you want to take notes. First, pay attention to what I'm saying so that you are able to absorb the concept. Now we are going to the cosmic level. It is established that Brahman is both the efficient cause and the material cause of the phenomenal world. The efficient cause and the material cause of the phenomenal world. Nimitta Karana and Upadana Karana. There is a simile used which we learnt in the one of the mantras earlier in Mundaka Upanishad. How many of you remember those similes?
I don't remember.
Padmaji. Manivannan should, because he's the one who remembered it then.
On the earth, many things come, right? The earth,
Yes, that is one of the similes. What were the other two?
the body,
The hair grows.
Huh?
How the, if I remember correctly, how the hair grows.
Correct, that's the second simile. What was the first one? Spider.
Yeah.
Correct? Spider creates that web. From the spider comes the web through the secretion, but it never gets caught within its own web. It can expand and retract, right? So the silk is produced from the body of the spider. So taking that concept forward, the interaction of the Supreme Self, the Brahman, Supreme Self, Brahman with Maya, and the dominant influence of Tamas. The net result was ether. Ether, na?
Yes.
Space. So the interaction of Maya with the Supreme Self resulted in ether or space. From space, air emanated. This is the sequence that you need to understand, it's very important. In due succession, out of the air, fire emanated. And out of fire, water emanated. And out of water arose earth. Now you can connect the dots. Why NASA and the whole world is going after source of water on Mars. Because if they find water, it means there is life that existed in Mars. So you saw the progression, how the Panchabhutas got created. And from water arose earth. So these five are called the tattvas: space, air, fire, water, and earth. And they are represented in our body. I have spoken about this before. What is the earth element in our body? The bones.
Yes.
சார் இப்போ கனெக்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்கு ஈஸியாக இருக்கா?
Yes.
So the subtle elements exist before they manifest themselves as the gross elements. So the process of Panchikarana is described as follows. The tamas aspect of each of the five elements divides it into two equal parts. Right? In each of these elements, there is a tamoguna, tamas. So the tamas aspect divides it into two equal parts, part A and part B. That one half of each element remains intact, which means the part A remains intact. the other half of each gets divided into 4 equal parts. That is, part B of each element gets divided into 4 equal parts. Then, to the part A of each element, one part of the B of each of the 4 elements gets joined. So it is at this point Panchikarana is complete. So if we take the example of space subtle is equal to space S, and space gross is space G. After Panchikarana, space G gets divided into half space subtle plus 1/8 air subtle plus 1/8 fire subtle plus 1/8 water subtle and plus 1/8 earth subtle. You apply the same rule for the other elements.
So 1 into 4. 1 into 4.
This is
So far, so good.
so this division is only for the tamas part,
Yes.
for the tamas aspect, by tattvas.
The tamas aspect of the elements is responsible for the division. So when I explain like this, if for example you are not able to still get the full meaning of it, my recommendation to you for a good and effective learning is grab those keywords together without losing them and park it without losing those keywords. Don't immediately try to analyze what is tamas, what is sattva and raja. Then you will lose the formula. By the time you go to the meaning of sattva, the tamo and rajas, you would have lost this formula and you will not be able to connect from the other end. Hold whatever you are learning at this time in the parking lot. And as and when you start discussing and understanding more about the other parts, these things will become clearer and clearer. So I will pause here and ask if there are any questions. If you listen to Gita or Bhagavad Gita, or if you listen to any of the Upanishads, everywhere you will see the references attributing to the same definitions. That doesn't change. It will be very consistent. So Panchikaranam means the Virat is said to be the sum total of all the quintuplicated 5 elements. Mark the word quintuplicated. I will explain that in a little bit. Is the sum total of all the quintuplicated 5 elements and their effects. This is called the gross body of the Atman or the soul. And associated state is waking state, where the senses give rise to the knowledge of objects. You claim to say, I know, I know, I know. What you know is the knowledge of the objects that you are able to see, hear, touch, feel, taste in the waking state. So that Atma or the Atman, which identifies itself with both the waking state and the gross body, is called Vishwa, represented by the first letter A of Om. The 5 unquintuplicated rudimentary elements and their effect, the subtle body together constitute what is called Hiranyagarbha. Did you catch the word? The gross body is quintuplicated. In the subtle level, it is unquintuplicated. So we are going in the reverse direction from the gross towards the causal. So the material subtle body has 17 parts. 5 vital forces. Anybody knows what are those 5 vital forces? No?
See,
Yeah.
speech,
The
seeing, smell,
all these things.
hear, and feel.
Okay. So do a little bit of research and see if you're able to answer it in the next class. Vital
Five
forces, right?
Vital
So,
forces.
so 5 vital forces and the 10 organs of perception and action. Organs of perception and action are the software and hardware, tanmatras and panchabhutas. So what is left is prana, pana,
Abana.
vyana, udana, samana. Those are the vital forces.
Oh, yeah, yes. But these 5 vital forces with respect to what?
They are the subtle elements. When we talk of subtle body, right, these are those elements of the subtle body. So this becomes 15 and you then add the mind and the intellect. It becomes 17. I'll give you a table of all these things. Don't worry too much. I'm creating a table in a consolidated form, so that will be easy for you to remember and relate to. So Hiranyagarbha in the dream state. What is the other term? Prajna, Tejasa. What is the term associated with Hiranyagarbha? Tejasa.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So when the sense organs are withdrawn, the knowledge arising out of the impressions in the waking state and the imaginary objects there perceived are together called the dream state. So as I said, when you're awake, you collect a lot of impression, and the projection of those impressions when you withdraw these senses as you go to sleep is called the dream state. So the Tejasa is the Atman that identifies itself with the dream state and the subtle body. Associated with the letter U in Om. So the causal body, which is the undifferentiated or avyakta, is called prajna. Here what happens is all the thoughts cease. They don't exist. The intellect, which I call as a CD reader, right? That also lapses. It doesn't function in that state. That is when you have deep sleep. You will never be able to recount what happened during a deep sleep state. Correct? Up to the dream state, you can wake up and say, I had a bad dream. I had a good dream. So when you're awake, you can look at something and say, I had a bad experience. The keyword is experience. Same way, when you go into the dream state, you still say, I experienced a bad dream. So anything which is based on the impressions in combination with the ahankara I, read by the intellect, processed by the intellect, becomes our experience. So far, so good?
Yeah.
But in the deep sleep state, these things also cease to function. It is symbolized with the last letter M, and it is also called as prajna. So we said the waking personality A should be resolved into U, the dream personality, and the U to M, that is the deep sleep personality. And that is where all of these will resolve into I, the Atman. Bottom line is, Atman is the eternal truth. And when you realize that I am Brahman, you realize that you are that Brahman, microcosm. You are that eternal truth, rest everything else is Maya. That is when you call yourself that you have attained the state of Samadhi. Samam means equilibrium. Any questions so far? So the term quintuplication means the compounding process of the formula that I gave. The compounding process results in the gross body, the gross form. Until then, it is in the subtle form, it is unquintuplicated. They exist in their own form. Right? Any part of this you want me to repeat? Interesting or scary?
No, interesting. Definitely interesting. Can this gross body separate itself from the subtle body?
Separate means
Like it can stand at a distance and look at the gross body like that.
Ipo, let me ask you a question. I use the term I.
Mhm.
Can you separate the letter from the sound?
I don't think so.
You can't
Correct.
understand. You don't.
If there is no sound, then how will you make others understand?
Correct. No, go to the same principle of the explanation of sound I gave.
Okay.
Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. One evolves into the other, subsequent. And finally, what you
Okay.
see, like para is the thought, Pashyanti is What is Pashyanti?
I don't know. I have to
Ah,
look at the
ஸோ அது
notes.
நோட்ஸ் திருப்பி படிங்க, உங்களுக்கு அப்போ தெரியும்.
Okay.
ரைட்டா?
Okay.
ஸோ ரெண்டுத்தையும் செப்பரேட்னு டிஸ்டிங்விஷ் பண்ண முடியாது. as I said, ஒன்றுத்துலேருந்து இன்னொன்று வந்ததுன்னா அது செப்பரேட்னு நம்ம சொல்ல முடியாது.
Okay.
They are recognized as different states.
It's already over. That state.
They are
It's
recognized as
evolving
different.
into that. Does it evolve into that?
அதான் இப்போ அதான் பஞ்சீகரணம் சொன்னேனே.
Okay.
It's,
That is the whole process.
it's like from the womb to the full body.
Correct. இன்னித்த கிளாஸ் நீங்கள் திருப்பி ரீப்ளே பண்ணி நோட்ஸ் எடுங்க.
Okay.
You'll be able to comprehend many things. And still, if you have questions, you can throw those questions in the WhatsApp group. I can
Sure.
answer those questions. And I'm trying to dumb it down to a very, very simple language that is easy for us to. So if you follow the structure, it will be easy. If you start getting digressed completely to say, okay, let me find out the meaning of this now and what happens in the poche. Under the title, in that context, whatever is being explained, try to hold the structure together. I will explain this again in more details with the explanation of the Tattva Bodha in the next class. I will start with that. So you will see me repeating quite a few of these things. I won't go into the shlokas of Tattva Bodha, just the meanings. So that way it will be a quick revision in the next class. Already I've revised some of the things that I taught in the previous class, so you'll see that rolling in forward. Right?
Okay.
So now if you're able to understand the whole process which is explained in Mundaka Upanishad, easier. Without these side explanations, அது புரியறது கஷ்டமா இருக்கும்.
But it's better than what I started with, the understanding.
என்னது?
I'm able to understand better, a little bit better.
Okay.
A little bit better, not to great extent.
இல்ல வரும். See, as I said, it's not something very easy to understand. So I'll ask a question now. In all the three words we said experience, right? What is the word that differentiates the fourth Turiya state? One word.
The ambience where you are here.
Turiya state. Turiya state.
Turiya
Yes,
is
fourth state.
fourth state where there is bliss.
Yes. So what is the key word? In these states you say you experience, right?
There
Realize it.
Correct.
never.
Realize. That is why it's called realization of self. When you get into the Turiya state, you will see that it's all Atman that matters. Rest, everything is Maya. The moment you realize that it is all about you, Atman, moment you reach that stage, it means you are a realized individual or a person that has attained moksha, liberation from all these bondings. So, to repeat it one more time, you do certain things in your life based on the phase of life. So when you're born, you're learning the tricks of the trade. You're learning how to survive on this planet Earth. You're learning skills, competencies, means of survival. During the course of all these things, you believe you are learning basic knowledge. You learn Vedas, you perform rituals. It's Aparavidya. Not the Paravidya, it's Aparavidya. But then if you are satisfied with saying, oh, now I'm the master of everything, I'm doing the puja, I create havan, I create homam, I create puja, I create archana, I do abhishekam, then that's the end of your story. You're not going to get any liberation. You keep circling around in the same maya. And if the desire is something that you are unable to control, and you're afraid of controlling the desires, the desires will multiply and it will become greed. Greed will make you do things that you may not want to do. We all know that. I don't want to go and digress into the topic. So you go from teenager to grahastha logical. You get into the family bonding. You procreate, you nurture, you parent your children. It brings in additional responsibilities. But you start fulfilling those responsibilities. And that is when, as an individual, you need to start planning for your retirement. The retirement planning starts from the time your children become adults. So the focus has to be to make the children independent and live their life. They will learn the way you learn things. Some learning will be the easy way, some learning will be the hard way. But you'll have to let them fly. The moment we start saying, no, you are my baby, you are my child, I will protect you for this, it's my duty to protect you for the rest of your life, it's the biggest blunder one can commit. And in a very gross form, I'll explain what I said just now. Let's say that your child is growing, right? It is a baby you're holding in your hand. As it grows, it becomes 5 feet tall. You start holding that baby so close to you, the baby can't move, can't do anything. Are you protecting the baby or are you choking the baby? I leave it to each one of you to interpret that. You have to allow space, you have to allow them that freedom to experience things based on the way they see it, and you have to recognize that that ego or ahankara in that human being is different from yours. It's not going to be the same. So you let them become independent. In a way, they grow into their balance sheet. You move on to your life where you say, okay, children are married, now they have produced kids, I have done the changing the diapers, everything is done. Somewhere you have to draw a line saying that, okay, from here on, I have to focus about my life. And when you do this planning, you can say, if I have to execute certain actions for myself, let's say at the age of 75, 80, whatever you determine as the right age, depending on your conditions, you have to go to school from now, learn the tricks of the trade that you can hope to implement when the time is ripe. Now, if you say that, I bought one home, but I want to make sure that I earn so much for next 7 generations, you'll never be able to retire. You are living in the hope that all the assets that you're procuring will remain after you're gone. Who knows? Maybe there's an earthquake, there's a volcano, or there is an IT raid, whatever happens, they're all gone. You're not there to be able to protect it. Instead, you let the other future generations live their own course, create their own life, charter their own destiny, and you start managing your life. That is when you start making the small attempts. Fasting is one attempt of sacrifice. Letting go of coffee is one other way of saying, okay, I know how I can control my desires. Learning to take criticism and appreciation equally with the same equilibrium are simple tools of success, of saying I can see both equally. Like, you don't get impacted. You control all your gunas, right? And you start using those tools of nyasam, pranayamam, meditation, mantra japam. You start energizing the kundalini within your body, and as you raise the kundalini, you will see the world completely differently. Unfortunately, we are coached and we are boxed into thinking everything at the gross body level from childhood till we die. It's all about the physical attributes, and that's all we focus on maintaining or seeing or recognizing or responding to. We talk about subtle body and causal body and all, but I think most of the people who are not committed would not even dare to explore what they are, for out of fear, and that fear is because of avidya or ignorance. The moment you gain knowledge of all this process is the first step for you to say, now I know what I'm talking about. Now I know what I'm looking at. I can boldly make some attempt in a very responsible way. Anything of what I'm saying, if you try to implement in a very irresponsible way, in a brash way, it can cause hurt, it can cause damage. I would repeat it again and again in every class. Right now, you're in the learning process of the tricks of the trade and the tools. So that you have 5, 10, 15 years, whatever number of years, and you can say, yes, I've done enough research, I've heard about it, I've talked about it, I've understood it, I've got all my questions answered. Then you formulate a plan and you execute a plan. Make sense? Super. Any question?
No.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you in the next class. Good night.